Everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Bibbs, Alonso, it's Twin Peaks: The Return, episode 7. I just took notes, and let's just go down the list because
weirdly eventful episode for Twin Peaks.
Lots of things happening, none of it explained, and maybe we'll have some clue by episode 18.
I don't know. We like to say there are no explanations on Twin Peaks. Having watched all of Twin Peaks, there's a ton of explanations. They just get to it on their own sweet time.
Absolutely.
So let's start with what's the first thing on your list?
Okay.
Let's just go down.
All right. First, I've got Jerry in the woods.
Someone stole his car. I guess it's the trucker who ran over the kid.
I guess.
I don't know who else would have.
Yeah, if that's where the truck is. All right, and so that's the truck that the Deputy Andy is talking to the guy about later.
Maybe.
I was never sure because that just dropped out of nowhere. The Deputy Andy thing, and the guy's like, "You need to leave now," and then something terrible happens.
I assume Andy was looking into that truck incident, but we'll find out.
I guess.
We'll find out. What else we got?
And it also links to the later stolen car issue that we'll deal with Dougie. I guess.
I don't think those two things are.
No, I don't mean they're related, but I just mean they're both happening.
Okay, fine. What else you got?
Okay, the diary pages. The diary pages. That's the big bombshell of this episode.
Finally, something we actually followed through on. There's so many leftover threads from the series that they haven't even touched yet.
Yeah.
I still don't even know if Audrey's alive.
Oh, I know.
I assume not, but I don't know.
She was mentioned this week, that business at the bank.
Oh yeah.
But we don't know.
Still nothing.
Yeah.
But in Fire Walk with Me, Heather Graham's character appears to Laura Palmer in a dream and said all that stuff that we said in the diary.
Right.
The good Dale is still stuck in the lodge. Put it in your diary.
Yeah.
We finally found out that she did indeed put that in her diary, and that the explanation makes perfect sense.
That Leland left it in the bathroom.
Yeah, Leland hid the evidence. That makes a lot of sense.
Frisked, yeah.
Although honestly, the real question though is, it's a couple of sheets of paper. Swallow it. Eat it, flush it, burn it. That's a weirdly elaborate way to hide all that stuff. I'm gonna unscrew this.
Well, and obviously in 25 years, nobody has updated that men's room.
Clearly.
That equipment is still there.
That's gross.
Yeah, make of that what you will.
It's gross.
Okay, so we find out that Harry Truman, who we're not seeing this season, is terribly sick. And
we found out that before because Rob Forster's character did call him in a previous episode.
Right, but I mean, I think it's gotten worse. It's weird the way that. Do we think that Lynch thinks there's going to be another season coming and he wants to still hold out hope that Michael Onkeen is going to say yes? Or is there some other reason why they're jumping through so many hoops to keep Harry Truman alive?
I think there's a couple of ways you can handle all this because there's a lot of characters on the show, a lot of actors on the show who sadly are no longer with us or are simply retired or in ailing health. It's been a long time and not everyone was young when the show began. Some people you can incorporate pretty easily. They're still working actors, they were eager to come back. Some people, he obviously he worked his ass off to get the doctor back in this episode for a quick Skype call.
Sure.
Just find a way to put him in the show.
We got the log lady in before she passed.
Exactly, and bless him, good for him.
Yes.
Glad he did all that stuff. But if you do the exact same shtick for every single character, it's gonna be the gimmick.
Right.
Oh, how is this character gonna come back really briefly and not actually mean anything to the plot? All right, fine. So we deal with the idea that instead of being dead or still around, there's another option, which is seriously ailing health. That happens to people in old age, and I like that they're tackling it.
All right, yeah. I mean, yes, obviously 25 years takes its toll on everybody. I just was curious what specifically about this character. Yeah, so truck guy covered him.
Maybe he loved him too much, he couldn't bear to kill him.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
Yes, Doc mentions Audrey in the bank. Okay, the fingerprints in the corpse. So Major Briggs apparently is who we're dealing with. And so this raises then the notion of, did he go to the lodge and then not age, and that's why the body is only in its 40s?
I don't know, because again, Major Briggs.
How old was he 25 years ago?
In the original series, I think he was supposed to be in his late 40s originally. Major Briggs in the original series, towards the middle of the actually beginning of the second season, disappeared, and the implication was that he had gone into the Black Lodge or some adjunct to it, and then he reappeared later in the series, rather kind of I guess ceremoniously, he was wearing World War I fighter pilot garb, but he just sort of came back, and I'm back. Okay, that was a weird way to handle that whole plot, but all right. And then they said he had a conversation with Dale after Dale came back from the lodge,
right?
And then he died sort of mysteriously, or disappeared mysteriously, the next day.
So do we think he was killed by Evil Dale?
I think he had to have been killed by Evil Dale or something similar.
Who is not Bob now?
No, he is Bob.
He is Bob. Then what was the thing in the diary about now I know it's not Bob?
Well, it is, okay, she was talking about, if you rewatch Fire Walk with Me, if you watched it recently.
I watched it before this started, but I've already I've seen 10 other movies since then.
Laura Palmer, when she was being abused as a child through a teenager, thought that her abuser was Bob. She saw Bob every single time. It was only over the course of Fire Walk with Me that she actually saw that was her father.
Oh, I see. That's okay.
So she thought Bob was another person. She didn't realize that this was her father doing this to her.
And doesn't she see Bob tear pages out of her diary?
I don't remember that part.
Isn't that a thing that happened? Okay, maybe
she sees Bob though. She sees Bob very clearly. So there obviously is a lot going on.
While the military attaché is on the phone with Ernie Hudson explaining what's going on, the guy walking down the hall
looks like Bob.
Well, he's the ghost from the Matthew Lillard prison. Remember? We've already forgotten Matthew Lillard. We've already forgotten Matthew Lillard.
Holy crap.
That got launched early on, and we've moved on.
I totally spaced. You're 100% right.
In the next cell. This is my niece.
I just thought it was supposed to look like Bob. No, you're absolutely right.
It was the guy in the next cell, and he disappeared, and now he's here. So that's a thing. Whatever that
means. Good catch.
Yeah, my niece Pilar. She's got an eye for this stuff.
Good going, Pilar.
How great is Diane's apartment?
Diane's apartment is gorgeous.
Love her mid-century look down to the ashtray.
Diane is great. I wasn't here when we talked about the last week's episode.
Yes.
I love that they introduced Diane and then just didn't get back to it in the whole episode.
No, and
then we found out that the only thing we missed was her saying "fuck you." And then that was it. Like seriously, Laura Dern saying "fuck you" to everybody is my new go-to response. I kind of just want to pull up a GIF of Laura Dern saying "fuck you" anytime someone says anything to me.
You know, Jason Reitman's been doing those staged readings at Film Independent where they'll get classic script with the new cast, and apparently he did an all-female Glengarry Glen Ross.
That's
which
a fun
I did not
idea.
get to see. Please, can we have Laura Dern in an all-female Glengarry Glen Ross? Because she has the fuck you down pat.
She does. I was a little. Honestly, I was a little disappointed with Diane. Not the character. The character is fine. I was disappointed we finally got to meet Diane, and then we have to introduce her as a victim. She's obviously full of strength now, but she's also full of a lot of anger. Dale did something to her. The implication is that it was sexual assault. They didn't come out and say it, but that's the way that scene plays to me. And if you look at the history of Twin Peaks, there's a lot of violence against women throughout.
Well, no, definitely, no argument there.
And we know Bob is a sexual predator.
Right, but that would have. I'll have to rewatch that scene because that wasn't what I was.
Really, what did you get out of it?
My thing out of it was that maybe there was possibly a romantic encounter, but then followed by a 25-year absence.
No, I think she's way too angry. This is not, I'll get over it, he left me. This is, he destroyed her faith in him. That's what I got out of it.
I'll look at it again. Maybe I missed that.
I see some real deep pain and betrayal.
Okay.
And that's what, because again, what do we know about Bob? We don't know that much. All we know is what he does to women.
But if she's already met that version of Cooper, she wouldn't find this guy in the prison to be a stranger to her.
She met him once. She knew Dale her entire life. She was like his assistant or his executive. I'm a little hazy on the job title. And then he came to her after he became Bob one night. Something happened, and then she didn't see him, and apparently she left the FBI. Like that was
but what I'm saying is,
I think
wouldn't she recognize the guy in prison as the last version of Dale that she'd met?
Yes, perhaps, but I think we are, and this is another thing when I talked about how on Twin Peaks in the original series, Leland Palmer being possessed by Bob kind of neutralized a lot of his culpability. It kind of just said this thing didn't really happen with her father, it happened with someone controlling her father. And even though at the end of it he felt all the guilt come through, it's only after the fact. It's a recovered memory. He was another personality, if that's how you want to handle it. And it seems like it's sort of absolving Leland and letting Leland feel like more of a tragic figure than the monster I think he probably would have been had they never created Bob, which as they've established is kind of an afterthought.
Sure.
So I see now like that kind of repeated again. And again, they could decide that that's not where this is going. This is just my interpretation of the events. But if indeed she was assaulted by Dale/Bob, and it turns out that it's only because of Bob and that, oh, well, that wasn't the real Dale. The real Dale would never have done that. Maybe, but that opens kind of a can of worms about who is the real in a situation of abuse.
Right.
Oh, I was taken over by a metaphorical monster, or maybe you're a monster.
True, but I think in the case of Dale Cooper, like he has been trapped in the lodge. He's had a look-alike, going around doing all this despicable stuff. and he's now attempting to re-enter the world. So I don't know that applying it to Cooper's behavior necessarily is the same as applying it to Leland's.
My point is that this is, if that's how they're going to interpret it, because they don't know necessarily this is a doppelganger yet.
Oh, I see.
That they're saying like, oh, well, it wasn't the real Cooper who really all did that. Like, I'm concerned about that. But this is the sort of thing where you can have a conversation about it now, and the next episode, your entire interpretation of all these events changes dramatically,
yes.
and I may not be able to even stick to my guns here.
Okay, what are they talking about with the it's very nice to meet you?
I have no.
What was that? And they talk about how one of the fingerprints had the word "very" backwards.
I think,
does Cooper's fingerprints like spell out that sentence?
No,
is that what we're supposed to get?
I'm not 100% sure of this, and I wish I'd had time to do some research. I actually only watched this episode this morning. I would have done a little more looking into it. I feel like what they're maybe referring to is the idea that each digit has a reference name. And that there might be some sort of mnemonic device or acronym or something.
Oh, okay. Right.
But either way, what I got out of that is that he has Dale's fingerprints inverted.
Yes.
So the word, so in order to make sure it's like, oh, it's clear, clearly we messed up with the fingerprints or something like that. So in order to show that they're the same fingerprints, we reversed it. And the proof that the people who did the fingerprints reversed it is that there's a word backwards.
Okay.
I think it's kind of awkwardly presented, but that's what I got.
Okay, you're right. That makes much more sense. Fair enough. Okay, so then we have the Diane's prison visit, which is a great scene, and then we have the cops showing up to talk to Dougie about the stolen car, and another great Janie E scene. Naomi Watts is killing it on this. I'm really like,
she's so forgiven for Book of Henry. Like, it's
not her fault.
That movie is not her fault. But man, that is a weird. It's a weird double feature this weekend.
Definitely.
To watch the absolutely abysmally atonal Book of Henry, and then see Twin Peaks. It's interesting because I like her performance. I like her sort of forthright anger with the loan sharks.
Yes, that was
and they don't even know how to handle her. I love all that stuff, but there's a part of me that is really upset with her and this character, that I have a negative emotional reaction to her because her husband is clearly, at least from her perspective, the only rational interpretation is that he has had some kind of stroke. It's been days. She hasn't, at best.
He's barely formed a sentence,
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, I'll take you to the hospital. Well, now I can't. Now you don't get to go to the hospital. And I'm part of me, it's like, dude, I know he's kind of a shitty husband.
How much of an idiot was the actual Dougie that no one is merely that there's this much of a being there going on that semi-comatose Dale Cooper, no one can tell the difference.
That's a fair point, and I kind of wish we'd known a little bit more.
We only got a few moments with that guy, and he did not strike me as the brightest bulb in the chandelier. But
a little bit more articulate than
like
this.
He could get sentences out,
Yeah, no, but it strikes me as, again, and I think I described this in a previous review. You look at the original Twin Peaks, and a lot of the thematic material was people ignoring cries for help because they were selfish. They're too wrapped up in their own stuff to notice that other people are in pain or in suffering or have problems. And we only realize it after the fact, and then everyone's kind of overwhelmed by grief over what they've done. I'm kind of seeing that kind of playing out again with Dougie Jones, but honestly, the majority of what I'm getting with Dougie Jones is that David Lynch is fucking with us. That's my theory. He's like, I'm gonna do 18 episodes of Twin Peaks, and 17 of them, Dale is gonna be stuck in Dougie Jones.
I am fine with him being in no hurry, because like the fact that anybody wanted this show to come back meant that he was in a position of like, y'all are gonna just wait. Everybody wait. Everybody sit down and wait. I'm gonna do it like with no network notes and no anybody telling me what to do. And I'm gonna take my 18 hours if I feel like it. And I think the Dougie stuff is funny.
I think it's funny.
I'm enjoying the many colors of Kyle MacLachlan that we're getting this season. And I think that his Dougie stuff is inspiredly, like, it's great. It is the ultimate sort of deadpan comedy in a way.
I'll grant you it's really, really funny, and I think it's really interesting, and certainly it's a bold choice for David Lynch, and it's a totally David Lynch thing to do, and he did it repeatedly in the original series. But again, I'm not even mad at him for fucking with us, but I know he's giggling about it.
No, clearly.
I know he's like, they thought he'd come back. He's not back yet.
No, he is. He's definitely like, he is just, that slow, like he's got we have bitten, and now he's not gonna pull us on that boat.
I'm in no hurry.
In any need to hurry at all.
Cool.
No, none. So then we get outside, and a little person hitman comes after him.
God, that hitman. That was a terrifying sequence the first time we saw him stab people.
And that was just
really
like
creepy.
just very jarring.
It's just so matter of fact, so every day, just another day at the office, and this guy comes in, stabs you.
Yeah, like his one thing is said was like his all got bent, But yeah, so like again, Cooper, we've seen like little elements of him come out, like badges and coffee and the word agent, like he just has this muscle memory to like totally get Janie out of the way, disarm this guy, grab him, knock him down, hit him in the neck, all that stuff. And did you notice the sound going on behind all that?
No.
We went back and like watched it a couple times. There is this like landscape of just industrial sound, like that thing that Lynch does, that back when, from Alan Splat onward, these just weird layered machine, disturbing noises under that whole segment. And of course that thing growing out of the sidewalk saying, squeeze his head up, That's a great sequence.
I think we're all waiting for the moment. Like at some point, Dale's gonna have to someone's gonna have to figure out what happened to Dale. That this Dougie Jones is a thing. And I think putting him in this situation, the people are talking about him on the news.
Right.
Someone who knew Dale Cooper is gonna see that news report. Someone at Twin Peaks, someone at the FBI.
I say the seeds are being planted. Like they found the diary pages. The key made its way back to the Great Northern. Like all these little disparate threads are kind of getting out into the world, and eventually someone's gonna put them all together.
I want to talk about the Great Northern. So we had Mr. Horn and Ashley Judd.
Beverly,
Ben and Beverly, and there's a mysterious noise in the office, and apparently it's coming from the lamp. Anyone else bummed out it wasn't coming from a drawer pull? And
I was going to say, was it the Josie? We talked about that.
I was hoping it would be Josie.
Is it the Josie drawer pull?
The weirdest fucking thing that ever happened in Twin Peaks, which is saying a lot, is when Josie just dies for no reason, and then her soul gets trapped in the knob on a drawer at the Great Northern, and then no one ever talks about it. It's the weirdest thing ever. I don't necessarily expect them to get back to that, but
a callback would be nice.
Something, just sort of remind. She's still there. Like I saw, like Joan Chen apparently wrote a letter to David Lynch in character as Josie, as like a ghost haunting the Great Northern, hoping she can come back someday. I don't know if that's what's ever going to happen, but man, that's the weirdest thing.
They can bring back whoever they want.
I kept hearing stories because I never finished season 2 for a long time. I kept hearing stories about how Josie is now stuck in a drawer pull, and I was like, well, that's a stupid thing. That's got to be some sort of exaggeration, right? Like, nope, that's just what happens.
Yeah, totally.
Some weird shit.
So Beverly has a job at the Great Northern. She's taking care of her very sick husband, Tom. We don't really know much what's going on there yet. It's weird though, and this is, I'm sure, a random coincidence. But at one point when she's yelling at him about how like she has to have the job, to help us survive, and I was like, I know that. Like I Googled "to help us survive," and it's a line from the song "Being Alive" in Company. Again, probably a total coincidence, but it's just one of those. You hear a certain phrase, you're like, wait, I know that from a thing. All
right.
Evil Dale gets a jailbreak. He knows a thing that the warden does not want to talk about.
Yep. Well, kind of. I don't know. It strikes me as a little easy, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they're keeping it vague. It's sort of like, I know about Joe McCluskey.
Basically, I know something about you. You're gonna let me go, and it's like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of honestly, it feels like a lazy plot point, even for Twin Peaks.
Especially when you've got the actual FBI showing up and telling you keep an eye on this guy.
And
it
feels like they're trying to like gild it a little bit by saying, oh, but now we've got dog legs involved, and I'm like, it's still kind of a lazy blackmail device, like any other.
This is not necessarily a storytelling dependent show.
No, but what it does have is distinctive incident.
Yes.
Things don't happen in Twin Peaks the way they happen in other shows or the movies or the stories. So having something that seems rather perfunctory with just this one little conceptual flourish with the dog legs, which really, whatever. Like it's, I mean, that poor dog, but other than that, whatever. Like, as a plot point, it's just sort of, oh, okay. Like it doesn't really have, I don't know, it struck me as a little easy considering how difficult David Lynch is making every other plot point.
Well, I'll tell you talk about Lynch fucking with us via Dougie. I would argue that Lynch is fucking with us via the sweeping up the bar sequence.
Okay.
That lasts like 4 minutes.
I'm watching the sequence with my wife, and we got weirdly invested in it.
Oh, and he missed a spot.
Yes, he did.
He missed a spot.
This drove my wife nuts. Like it just all of a sudden you just reset and you get totally OCD, and it's like this weird.
You're gonna make me focus on it. I'm gonna notice that you left that one peanut shell in the corner.
This weird relaxation exercise where you're just like waiting for him to get to it. He'll get to it, right? He's gonna get to it, right? Come on. Yeah. And then it all ends up to, and again, Twin Peaks is a show with a lot of violence towards women, and we find out that the other Renault brother,
yes, has been pimping out underage women.
Great. Thanks, Twin Peaks.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure that'll be important later.
It'll come up later or not, exactly, yeah.
Or not, it's just part of this rich tapestry of abuse.
And then we finally end with not a live act, which has been the standard for this season, but Sleepwalk is playing at the Double R, and that's a song that was used in Blue Velvet.
Yeah, a part of me was thinking they were gonna end with the sweeping.
I was thinking that too. I started waiting for starring Kyle MacLachlan to pop up.
You know what? The bar is closed tonight. They don't have a band every night. Come on. They gotta have a slow night.
Monday.
Yeah, come on. We have a poker game going in the back. That's all we got today.
Yeah, no, but oh God, that sweeping. I was like, oh, David Lynch. Oh, you are just doing it. You're doing it.
I don't even know. Twin Peaks is, I love it, but it kind of defies conversation a lot.
No,
like you just
we talk about the difference between recaps and reviews, and I mean, like for this show, recapping is really all we can do because we're just taking you. This is how far we've gone in what is clearly going to be a whole. I mean, last week I was watching with a friend of mine. He goes, if this were a regular TV show, the end of episode 6 out of 18 would be the first act, but. Nah.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like when you review like a cop show, you have other cop shows to compare it to. When you review a soap opera, you have other soap operas. Hell, when you review Doctor Who, you just have 50 years of Doctor Who. You can't even really compare this season of Twin Peaks to previous Twin Peaks terribly.
Not really, no.
There's not a lot of expectation that it's either meeting or even playing with. So at some point, you're just sort of sitting back, and a part of me wonders if reviewing it is an exercise in futility, and we're just sort of be like, and David Lynch did that.
A case could be made. No, that's why.
What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, at this point,
at least until it's done.
I feel like we're cataloging, and that's fine. But I just think there's a lot to catalog.
We're train spotting. We're just
basically
maybe at some point this information will be useful. Probably not.
Yeah. No, I have no pretense that on a week by week basis we're gonna have any fucking clue what's happening. Because the other thing about all other TV shows is that most serialized television operates as a series of discrete units where things happen within that episode, and then they're resolved in some way or other. And you're right. Even the original Twin Peaks was sort of an effort to kind of marry Lynch's lynchiness with the demands of network television.
Yeah, and it was very effective.
And it was, it's landmark television. But now it's like those shackles are gone.
It's really fascinating.
I have been given 18 hours by Showtime to do whatever the fuck I want, and I'm going to do it the way I want it, and it's not going to feel like television, and it's not going to be a thing where I have to hit these story beats and I have to accomplish these plot points at this point in the season or whatever.
When you look at David Lynch's filmmaking career, and I include television in this, it seems like he's constantly struggling with being as weird as he wants to be while also being somehow accessible.
Sure.
And I think a lot of his more popular films have some level of accessibility to it. The Elephant Man is a biopic. Blue Velvet is in many ways a straightforward noir when it's not being weird and surreal.
Yeah, he's not an experimental filmmaker.
Well, it can be, but I
think he's a surrealist who is still married to narrative.
I think that, but here's the thing, how much does he want to be? And I get the impression sometimes, you look at some of his short films in particular, that he doesn't want to be. And that he actually is very eager to step out of those confines. And what I'm seeing with the new Twin Peaks is him trying to push as far as he can against tropes and storytelling devices and anything we might conventionally call genre, and just like, okay, I have some built up goodwill because people have been waiting for decades and they still want Twin Peaks. We know a lot of these characters already, and there's gonna be a lot of pre-existing emotional investment. Now I can do whatever the fuck I want with them. And I can be as weird as I ever wanted to be.
Right.
And there's a weird freedom in that he has now to be more, I don't know, Eraserhead than he had been before, to be more Mulholland Drive when no one else wanted him to be, or Lost Highway actually. I think Lost Highway is actually probably more accurate comparison. You look at the use of doppelgangers and mysteries and
like this show has not gone full Inland Empire on us yet.
But I think it's Lost Highway. I think you look at Lost Highway and there's actually a lot of narrative similarities. I love that movie. But yeah, I think this is fascinating. But I think it's a sort of thing where it's going to be really difficult to judge it until the end because it's not working in any conventional way.
And I think you guys know that too. So like, I don't think anybody's watching this thinking that we're going to explain anything or that we even or evaluate anything because it is going to be just how it all unfolds.
Why are you watching?
This?
Why are you watching this? No, thank you so much. Like I think what we're getting out of this is that it's nice seeing other people react to it.
Sure.
Seeing what other people get out of this, the other connections people are made. I didn't even get the ghost bit. We had different reactions to the whole sequence between Diane and Bob. So I think that's interesting to take surrealist storytelling. Which is, again, surrealism is kind of designed to make us make connections where we didn't see any before.
Right.
It's not entirely formless.
It's like trying to map dream logic.
A little bit, yeah. And we're all going to bring something else to it, and it's interesting to see how that pans out and what we're all getting out of it. So on that level, I do value this, and I value other people's reviews that I'm reading as well, and I value your input as well. So thank you very much for joining us on this review of Twin Peaks.
We're going to keep at it. Join us next week.